Welcome to weekend around Kansas City. A lot of arrests made. You had some sideshows going on. We all know about the ATV problems that have been obviously widespread around key entertainment parts of Kansas City. And the city is serious about cleaning a lot of that up. The police chief, Stacey Graves, is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Chief, thank you for being here. Always appreciate the time. So the success from this weekend, a lot of arrests made. What do you attribute that to?
Hard work of police officers. We've put more officers in and around that area. This past weekend, we had our officers on mandatory overtime to make sure that we have enough manpower down there to address the situation that we have. We had officers down there that were pursuing some of these vehicles, which I got to tell you, that's such a delicate balance for police. When to chase, when not to, because obviously we always have to balance that risk versus reward. And sometimes that risk is trying to decide whether or not we can pursue one of these ATVs or street racers or motorbikes, because we all have a lot of great things going on down in downtown, especially specifically Crossroads downtown corridor, where you have a lot of pedestrian traffic. So, we just want to make sure that we have enough officers to have a coordinated response to get people like this that are doing this lawless, dangerous behavior in some of the funnest parts of our city, and make sure that we address that and hold them accountable for their reckless behavior.
So, that's obviously welcome news, I know, for Kansas Cityans and folks coming from out of town to spend money and spend time in Kansas City. The next question would be, why do you think, or why did it take this long to get to this point, to take this approach? Because basically you're adding cops and adding overtime for patrol in this part of town, which always seemed like the obvious thing to do. So why now and why at this point?
Well, it's not why now. It's we have been doing this. We instituted the entertainment district in the months during the time that we usually don't. We usually so let me explain something to you. So we have what we call the entertainment district plan, and we usually institute that in May through October. We put extra officers in and around our entertainment district. Because of these ongoing situations with our street racers, we started this back in October, where hey, let's reinstitute that entertainment district plan, but they're to concentrate in the downtown corridor or anywhere where there are some of these street racers and other areas of disorder. So we've been doing this since we continue to add more officers to address these issues, and this is just escalating. And I'm telling you, once our officer was injured by the ATV, you would have thought it would have had the opposite response, but actually, I feel like we're getting more of that traffic downtown. So we are just continuing to escalate our enforcement until we don't have to be here anymore. We're going to be here until we don't have to be here, if that makes sense. Even since I came into this position, making sure that we're putting officers on downtown footbeat. They started with a sergeant and 2 officers, and this past Monday, this is already, in the works and months coming. Now they have 6 officers down there, and some of that is to cover some of these evening hours, to continue to working on some of these issues that we have with some of this lawless, dangerous behavior of these street racers. And I got to tell you, Pete, this is a nationwide issue. When I talk to other major city chiefs, they're experiencing the same thing. Some cities and states have tools where they can seize cars and crush them. That's where I would like to get to. I know City Council is looking at least trying to hold some of these vehicles for 30 days. And for those who think that this is somebody's kids out joyriding their parents' cars, that's not the case. That is absolutely not the case. These are adults. They have firearms, which some of our officers got guns pointed at them over the weekend. Our officers are out. They are taking this seriously. They are foot chasing people. We are getting people into custody, and we're going to continue to tow these illegal vehicles until they're not down here in the downtown area or in and around Kansas City. We want Kansas City to be known for, you are not welcome here for this illegal, reckless behavior.
KCPD are making a dozen arrests over the weekend, towing 6 cars, seizing multiple firearms. Police Chief Stacey Graves is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. So now, moving forward on this issue in particular, your confidence in the prosecutor's office, which of course turned over here over the last few months, and making sure you feel good about the hard work your men and women in law enforcement are doing, resulting in charges. Where are you at on working with this prosecutor's office and feeling like they've got your back here as well, which obviously, let's be honest, wasn't the case under the prior administration?
I got to tell you, Melissa Johnson's been fantastic. She has came in and she has set the tone, and she has followed up on everything that she said she was going to do, and she has only been there since January. She presented at our last Board of Police Commissioners meeting and said that they are filing over 80% of the cases that get submitted to their office, which is fantastic. And some of those 20% are something they may send us back to do a little bit more work on, and we'll resubmit it. So like that other 20% isn't just all for naught. Like that case is still being worked on. But with this is exactly the way the system should be working, is the way that it did over the weekend. We had a lot of these arrests. The prosecutor, Melissa Johnson, put out a press release talking about some of the folks that were charged. That's sending a message, a continuous message, a unified message with law enforcement here in Kansas City, specifically with Melissa Johnson in Jackson County, of the stance of public safety.
Now, what about this, Chief Graves? Of course, the FBI announcing here yesterday that they're sending 30-plus officers to Kansas City. That came from FBI Director Kash Patel. How, obviously, they're going to work for the FBI, but how can you work in coordination with the new resources you have at the FBI to hopefully help keep Kansas City safer going forward? Well,
first of all, I'm excited. I'm excited that they're putting more resources here in the Kansas City area. And, we still have members talk about Operation Legend, Operation Legend, and how some of the federal agents came in. They work side by side with our detectives. Some of them work side by side on some of our robberies, homicides, and it really helped. And so any help that, our partners over FBI can provide Kansas City, we wholeheartedly welcome that, and we're actually really thankful for the help. And not every city in the United States has such a great working relationship with their federal partners, but we enjoy that here in Kansas City, and this will just further solidify that.
Yeah, that was on display. Good point. In places like Newark, New Jersey over the weekend. So, what are they going to be working on cold cases you haven't had time to get to? Are they working on active cases? What does that relationship now look like with these new FBI resources?
That's something that's going to be directed by their SAC. And with that, FBI has a little bit of a different focus. I know some of it's on, terrorism, narcotics, and whatnot. So we will take whatever help that they want to give us in any of those areas specifically as it involves violent crime. We work violent crime cases with them now. Anything, I'm telling you, I have nothing but good, welcome, let's go, let's get to work.
There you go. In the last 30 seconds, what is your message, Police Chief Graves, to businesses in Kansas City who obviously have been struggling in the wake of some of the crime and a lot of the issues that we've talked about for quite some time here in Kansas City?
I would say this. The men and women of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department are absolutely 100% invested in making sure Kansas City is safer and what it should be as a city. Our officers are out all the time, day in, day out, and they're really getting after it. There was no complaints from the officers working overtime this past weekend. And I'll tell you what, I want to say thank you to those that were out there on the street, because I got feedback from our officers that said that they were actually being literally cheered on as they are taking people into custody for these ATVs, these motorcycles. I know it extends beyond that, but we will continue to make sure that we deploy our resources in such a way that it not only prevents crime, that we're intervening on it, but we are absolutely enforcing on those who are causing, crime and disorder in our city.
Well, that's welcomed and 180 degrees from where things were a few years ago, when you think about 2020 down on the plaza. So I'm glad people are coming around, at least based on that anecdotal example. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Pete. And hey, I would really like to have one of those Back to Blue events here at KCPD if you want to come hang out with us.
We would love to make that happen. I will coordinate that with your staff for the probably back half of the year, if that works for you.
Okay. Perfect. Have a great rest of your week.
All right. You too. Stacey Graves. Good to have her on KCMO Talk Radio. And there you go. We do have a tentative next one lined up north of the river, but we would love to get KCMO on that rotation and get them in for a Back the Blue tour pretty soon, or get us out there, I guess the best way to put it. Chief Stacey Graves, good to have her on.